Hey guys, I'm Phil Harris.
And I'm Ashley Harris.
We are Shred MX Conditioning, and we provide online fitness and nutrition coaching, as well as in-person riding clinics for riders and racers from local to pro.
Now, we're racers ourselves, so we'll be talking about all things moto on this channel, from motocross, fitness and nutrition, injury, prevention and maintenance, local races, amateur nationals, pro events, current happenings in the sport, and everything in between. So whether you're on the road or in the garage, turn it up and enjoy.
This is Shred MX Shop Talk. Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 7. We've been on a little hiatus here, and we're finally getting back to it and getting you guys another episode.
Yeah, how many times in the past couple of weeks have I been like, we need to do a podcast, and by the time we sit down, it's like 8:45, and these always take, for some reason, an hour. We don't plan it that way, but it always takes an hour, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to record a podcast until almost 10 o'clock at night, so.
Yeah, it doesn't always sound too exciting.
No, so we want to make sure we bring good energy, good vibes, so.
And here we are. We're getting you guys another episode, sitting on the front porch, enjoying this beautiful weather we're having right now.
Yeah, finally. It's finally turned nice here in Ohio. Those of you that are local, I mean, obviously enjoying the riding scene outside again, and those of you that aren't local, it seems like it takes forever for us around here to turn into nice weather. So to be able to sit on the front porch and enjoy an evening is like gold.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it's been a couple weeks, but a couple weeks ago we raced Crow Canyon, which is a track that neither one of us have raced in a long time. They're more of like a membership-only track now. They have a lot of trails and things, but the Viva Series took one of their rounds to Crow Canyon. So we got to do that a couple weeks ago, and they did a 3-moto format, which was actually really interesting. So we did 1 moto Saturday and 2 motos on Sunday, which allowed us to actually, we didn't even have to show up on Saturday until, what time did we get there, like 12:30?
Yeah, we ended up not doing like morning practice. We just did race practice and then did our first moto that evening. So yeah, we didn't end up showing up till like later in the day. Like, yeah, I think it was like
It was like 12:30.
yeah, it was like 12:30, somewhere in there. So yeah, it's been like almost 20 years since I've done a moto race there.
Yeah.
I remember coming back when we moved back from Florida, and we did that demo days there for KTM because I wanted to try out at KTM, and but I think that was 2016.
Yeah, right when we moved back.
So it's been that long since I've even been out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
I mean, and it's funny because the track is still basically the same.
Yeah, I mean, couple little sections that are different, but for the most part, it's pretty much, it's Crow Canyon exactly the way it was.
Yep. That's why I wasn't too worried about trying to get there like early Saturday morning and ride their day practice. I'm not always great, like if we show up to a track that I've never been to and there's a lot of jumps, trying to get all the jumps down, and like, you know, race practice is typically, I mean, a long one is like 5 laps. Usually they give you about 3 laps and learn the track. So, but again, it was a track, you know, I kind of grew up racing at quite a bit and just haven't been back in a while. So it was pretty cool to get back out there. And then we actually, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about racing too, but because of the way they set it up, we still got a quick practice on Sunday morning, but we were home, out of there and home, which was an hour drive. I think we were home by like 3 o'clock after racing 2 motos on Sunday.
Yeah, they got through it pretty quick. It ran really smooth, so
yeah.
It was nice. Yeah, we got home pretty early. I mean, granted, we are within an hour of that place, so I mean that makes it nice too. So we didn't have a far drive home after, but yeah, they, like I said, they got through the program really quickly and really smooth. So it went well.
Yeah, and you ran both A classes, and I ran women's and 30 plus. And they lined us up in the women's class with plus 50, which my dad races. So I actually got to battle with him all weekend, pulled the whole shot on him a couple times, because they just dropped all of our gates together. There wasn't like massive gates, and there was a couple classes on each gate, so they just dropped us all together, which is cool. But I pulled a couple hole shots on my dad, and the one time I got to chase him back down, and battled around with him. So that was the highlight of my weekend. Doing that is just, after all these years growing up racing and stuff, and my dad's still out there racing, I'm still out there racing, like getting to actually battle with him, like it's different when you're battling with someone that you don't know, because you kind of you try to be careful, like you don't really want to bump them too hard. But when it's my dad, like if we both ended up falling down because one of us bumped each other, we'd just be laughing. So it's good aggressive racing. Like I'm not going to take him out or anything, but and he wouldn't do that to me either. But it makes for really fun racing.
Yeah, it's it's really fun to watch you guys race. To battle like that the whole time. Because I know you guys are out there having a good time. So it's really cool to be able to see you guys do that. Even, all these years later after he got you guys into it and everything, and you're still racing, obviously a big part because I still race and ride, but yeah, it's cool to see you guys out there together battling it out, having a good time.
It's fun. And then in the 30 class, they dropped us with, I forget what else.
Yeah, it was like a 2-stroke class, or I don't remember what they dropped you guys with.
There was 3 other classes, though, and I pulled the whole shot and led the whole moto of all the classes. I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, you were doing good. You were riding well.
Thanks. But yeah, so I wanted to talk, too, about your races, because you, and one of the things like we've talked about before is like having to deal with the young up-and-coming riders, and you had one to deal with there.
Yeah. I ended up battling all weekend with Micah Grubbs, and it was fun. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of kids like coming up in our local area, so it's nice to go out some weekends and just not have a challenge, but at the same time it's really nice to go out and have a challenge. And Bly was there too, I believe. Yeah, he was there as well with us, and he mixed it up. He was on my tail a couple of motos that I was in between those guys, so we had fun. I rode both A classes, so I was out there wringing the 250's neck to death a couple motos, trying to keep up with Micah, but we had some fun battles, and I was able to get him one of the motos on the 250, which I was super stoked about because I'm not a big 250 outdoor guy, so it made me feel good that I can rip one still after all these years of not really riding them outdoors, so it was fun.
And we've even talked about that a little bit, like riding the 250. Once you get back onto your 450, you ride the 450 more aggressively, which actually helps you sometimes.
Yeah, at certain tracks it definitely does. Sometimes I can't find that flow or that aggressiveness sometimes on the 450, and I found that when I'm on the 250 and I can push it a little bit, and then I find where maybe I have areas where I can carry a little more speed or a little more aggression, so I try to adapt that onto the 450, and so sometimes the 250 helps me out when I do have it, but sometimes it makes it tough. Like when we did race at Crow Canyon, actually I did tell you after the races I struggled a little bit going back and forth.
It's a big
with
difference.
The 2 bikes, yeah. And we were like fairly close motos together for my 2 classes, so I had both bikes in staging. I think we had like a moto or 2 between the.
Yeah, I rode your 450 down on the way down and your 250 back up after your motos because you were so close together. So.
Yeah, so it was a little tough just because like they are different powers to ride and stuff. So even though you can kind of be aggressive at times on the 450, you still got to respect that thing and ride them smooth compared to just hanging out and holding her wide on the 250. You
got to respect it a little more.
Definitely. Otherwise, you're going to be laying on the ground before you know it.
Yeah. So then we took a weekend break from racing, just went and rode, and then this past weekend we actually had a really fun little getaway weekend. We left Saturday morning and went and rode Super Coops up in Michigan. That was their first time open for the year. And then, so that's about 2 hours and 45 minutes for us.
Yeah, nice, not bad little cruise up there, and I love going to that place. It's super loose sand, so
Yeah.
it like gets, I guess you could call them ruts, but they change throughout the day
A lot.
because it's really loose, and man, I should say that place will kick your butt, but in such a good way. It's so fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good place to go train, just because it is brutal, but like in the best way possible. Like if you're looking to get some good hard motos in, like go ride there.
Yeah.
It's really not that far out of Ohio. Like you cross over the border and I would say honestly, once you cross the border, you're probably there in like a half hour, right by Toledo.
Yeah, I think it's I would say probably within a half an hour or 35 minutes, like north of Toledo there.
Yeah, and they changed their layout, and they did that because the owner was actually telling us they added a bunch of drainage to the track. That way when they get rain and stuff, they can ride a little bit more. So just a really great facility and super nice owners. So we were excited to go support them for their first weekend open.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. The new layout was super cool.
Yeah, it was. And we just took the van. So we loaded up the van and headed up there. Took some spare air filters because Redbud was also racing this weekend, and we really wanted to race Redbud because, of course, our regional's coming up there. So we were like, oh, let's, go ride at Super Coops, and then we'll go to Redbud after. So after riding a sand track all day Saturday, got ungeared, put new air filters in the bikes, loaded back up, and we headed another 2 hours and 45 minutes west towards Buchanan, which is where Redbud is, and we actually just got a hotel in Niles, Michigan, which was 20 minutes from the track, but headed even farther into Michigan. So it was a really fun little road trip we made.
Yeah, it was cool. I feel like it's like one of the first times I've done that, where I went and did like a practice day on a Saturday at one track, and then went the next day to race somewhere else. But it was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing it, and it was, of course, a blast on Sunday at Redbud. I mean,
yeah, you can't beat Redbud.
no, not at all.
I mean, there's other great tracks, but it's like apples to oranges. Like Redbud is just Redbud. You go there and you race it because it's freaking Redbud. We love it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if any of you listen, you've been there, it was typical Redbud. It was a little soft and a little wet in the morning, but man, by the time motos came around, it was awesome, and it was ruddy. It was super rough and ruddy this weekend, but it was a good, I would say, precursor to what the regional is probably going to look like.
Yeah, you just wait for the regional. So for those of you that don't know, I raced the regional at Redbud last year, and Phil didn't because he didn't finish his race at Briarcliff because it was a muddy mess. So anyways, I got to race the regional last year. What we raced in on Sunday is not anywhere near what it's going to look like for the regional. And it was pretty gnarly, but it was good. Like for me, I was kind of like, man, this is like manageable, because what we raced at the regional last year was absolute insanity. Like, just wait.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So, definitely a good, kind of warm up for that, which is why we went. Now, you actually had some really good battles on Sunday too in your classes.
Yeah, I did. Pulled some pretty good starts, and I had some really good battles. I rode Open Pro Sport, and then they had a 35 plus class up there. So I rode that for my second class. And I first moto of Open Pro, I got a pretty good start, and I was in like third for a little while. I was like battling up there with those guys. Just had some good lines. Not that great of lines, and wasn't flowing too well, so I tightened up a little bit. A couple of guys got me. I think I still got fourth though, that first moto.
Fourth or fifth, I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, I want to say fourth. I think you got fourth.
I think it was a fourth. And then for the first moto of 35, I got a really good start and was leading it, and one of the main guys that I would have battled with in that class actually went down in the bottom. So I ended up having like a massive lead off the first lap, and then I rode way too conservative, and he almost reeled me in right at the end. So yeah, I kind of I almost threw that one away being stupid. More or less riding behind me.
Yeah.
And then Sakamoto's had another killer start, was running second, going to the bottom section of Redbud on the first lap Open Pro, and I put it down on the ground. And then was kind of stuck under my bike, and someone ran into the back of me. So I had to get up from that like dead last, but I think there was like 14 of us. I was still able to get back up through a handful of guys, and I ended up like 8th.
Yeah.
So
that moto.
Yeah, I still got like 4th or 5th overall. So so that worked out pretty good. So, and then second moto of the plus 35 class. Yeah, we had me and Dan Petrie, however you say it. We had a killer battle. He ended up getting the best of me, but man, I was trying every line I could and going anywhere I could, and I swear I hit a couple of corners. I feel like almost wide open trying to get around him on the outside, and but yeah, we had a killer battle the entire. I think we did 4 or 5 laps for our plus 35 moto, and we were almost wheel to wheel
the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time. It was nuts.
So I tell you all the time, like I know when you get into a battle like that, it used to, I think, bother you more like if you didn't win a battle like that, but anymore, like I feel like you also enjoy it. But I've told you before, like I know like you didn't win, that actually doesn't matter so much. It's so freaking cool watching you race that hard and challenge yourself that much. Like just watching your craft on the bike is such a thrill to watch. So like I know it sucks for you again, like that you didn't win, whatever, that's not even important. It's just cool
Right.
to get to watch you like race like that and have someone that like can push you that hard. It's really enjoyable as a spectator, but also as your wife.
Yeah, it was a good race. I can only imagine from a spectator's point of view, it probably wasn't a good one to watch. So.
Yeah. And then a few hairy moments because you were trying to,
Oh yeah,
not-
I think I wrecked. I thought I was almost wrecking like 3 times
Yeah.
in that moto, and one for sure I was like kind of up in the bars, and I don't know. I'm not sure how I rode out of it, but I did, and then just got right back on the gas. I'm like, we gotta go.
Yeah. So that's one other thing I've talked about recently a little bit. Like, it's not that you as like A-level riders don't make mistakes. It's that you just ride through them and keep pushing and like don't let it bother you.
Yeah. I used to be a little bit bad actually about that when I was younger. I'd make a mistake and then I would be thinking about it into the next section, and then I'd make another mistake and I'd compound it, and then sometimes it'd take me like a lap or so to shake it, and then by then it's like, man, I've already been passed by a handful of people. But yeah, I've gotten a lot better at that. Now it's like it happens, and then it's just like I try to instantly erase it and just think forward.
Yep. Keep moving forward.
Yep.
Now, you raced Open A 35 plus, and I got excited because there was a 30 BC class up there, which I signed up for, and women's. I was like, cool, like we'll have, 4 different classes to race. This is great. So, of course, the running order comes out, and I was Moto 11, you were 12, and then we were both in Moto 15, so that, like, didn't work out at all.
Yeah, we didn't really have any spacing in there,
No.
and of course, we're up at Redbud, so we barely know anyone there at the local races. So.
Yeah, but that worked out because I met a girl, her name's Maddie, from up there, just kind of chatted with her a little bit, and she had told me she was coming, or she was thinking about coming by herself, and she's like, do you want to park together? I'm like, absolutely. Like, if someone comes by themselves, like, definitely make sure that you're with someone that you kind of know in case something happens, right? I'm like, yeah, like, park by us, we'll make sure nothing happens, or we got you, whatever. Well, it ended up being that they had us because her parents came, and she ended up helping us on the gate, and her parents helped us on the gate. So big shout out to them for helping us out, but it ended up working out really well.
Yeah, it did work out because I thought it was going to be chaos, especially with us being on the same gate in that one moto.
Oh, it was still chaos.
Oh, it definitely was, but
It always is chaos.
yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, so the women's moto for me, it went well. I actually pulled both hole shots, which was killer. There was 14 women up there, which I was excited to see. Of course,
Yeah, it was a really good turnout for you guys.
yeah, of course, Maddie, the girl that I made friends with, it's been, we've been friends for a little while now, but she was the next oldest female racer at 22 years old. So everyone else that I was racing against was pretty much, teenagers, which is like cool. Again, and I pulled the whole shot on them all, so pretty stoked on that. But I ended up, the first moto, I think I ended up 4th and was chasing down, her name was Eden, the girl in 3rd. And then the second moto of women's, so I had the plus 30 moto in between there, and it's hard for me sometimes. I get nervous like when it's a guys class, because with girls, we're all about the same size, but with dudes, a lot of those guys are bigger than me. So if I get hit or I end up hitting one of them, I always get the shit end of the stick in that deal. So I end up riding pretty timid, which I'm working through personally because that's hard for me. But anyways, so didn't do great in the 30 BC. I definitely could have done better. I just needed to try harder, honestly. And actually, you lapped me. So you were fighting with Dan, trying to stay ahead of him that moto, and you ended up lapping me. And I was like, damn it, I definitely needed to go faster.
Yeah, I did end up getting you that first one.
That's okay. So anyways, the second women's moto, I was like out there, and I could feel it as soon as I launched off the gate of the second women's moto. And I still somehow got the whole shot, but my bike didn't jump off the gate as aggressive as it did earlier in the day. So, okay, I'm like...
It didn't look like it from my point of view either.
Yeah, no. And I'm like, I didn't do anything different, but whatever. I get to riding, and I kept feeling like the clutch was engaging in different spots, and it didn't necessarily want to go, and I kept hitting like a false neutral, like I wasn't shifting hard enough or something. So when I got off the track, it's funny because as soon as I got off the track, I was looking down at my clutch thinking I wanted to adjust it, use the little quick adjust. And then it dawned on me that I have a hydraulic clutch. And then I'm like, oh shit, my clutch is fried. That's what that means. So I came back and, kind of told you that. And we made the decision collectively for me to not race my final moto of the day, which is the second 30 BC class, because it's Redbud, the ruts were deep. I was using the clutch to get through the corners well. And I really didn't want to break one of those plates and have it lock up my motor right before regionals. So
no, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, we already have a clutch on order, so it'll be here. Might ride your bike, your 250 this weekend if we go riding, because I don't think I'll have it till Monday. But that way it's fresh, it's ready to go. And it's like one of those things, like mentally I battle, like, is the clutch really bad or was it just me? But like that's not something that I want to chance and smoke a motor. I really don't.
No, that clutch has a bunch of time on it anyway, so
yeah, 50 hours.
It's about due.
And I've been telling you, like,
I rode it a bunch indoors last year when we first got that bike. So
yeah, and I've been telling you for a couple times, like, I think we need to check it, and between like changing oil, getting filters done, it always just like, oh shit, I forgot to look at it. So it's like we're just gonna get a new one.
Yeah,
it's time.
It's just time.
It's time. So yeah, but otherwise it was a really great trip in the van. That's been the longest trip we've taken in the van so far. We got done with racing and on the road by 5:30. We were home by 10.
Yeah, it was amazing. I thought we were for sure going to be home like super late from that trip, but I was like accepting of that.
Same.
But it ended up working out really well, and yeah, we were home by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and that's a 4.5 hour drive, and we left Redbud. I started driving because I think did you have a little bit of a headache, maybe?
No, I was all right. I think you just offered to drive.
So I just started driving, and then with the van, the van feels like you're driving a car. We were like on the turnpike at the Baumhart exit, which means we're an hour from home, and I'm like, damn, I'm still driving, and we're only an hour from home, and I feel fine. Like usually, like with the truck and the camper, that's like, it's tiring to drive that thing, because not that you're fighting it the whole time, but you got to drive it.
Right.
The van, you're just like cruising and like looking down like, oh crap, we're doing 80. I should probably slow down a little bit. But so we definitely made good time, but I drove the whole way kind of on accident.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were going to swap out with me, but you just kept driving, and I kept asking if you were good, and you said you were fine, so you drove all the way home.
Yeah.
So which I appreciate.
Van life is nice for sure. And once we get it built out and get some more organization and stuff in there, it'll be nice. Like right now we just kind of have everything on the floor, but we're making it work, making it happen.
I still love it regardless of stuff on
Me
the
too.
floor right now.
And I am excited not to have to get a hotel all the time.
Yeah.
Because we've done that a couple times, and like the first time it was kind of cool, it was something different. And this time I was just annoyed. So I'm definitely excited to annoyed at the hotel because you're not at the track. The breakfast wasn't great. Yes, it's included. It's free, but it like wasn't great. It wasn't what I would cook, and like I like what I cook. So I'm looking forward to having the van built out a little bit. Or we put the van that we purchased did not have a hitch on it, and we knew that. We're like, no problem. We can put one on. It's easy. In theory, it is easy. So we bought a hitch that said professional installation, 15 minutes. If you do it yourself, 30. It took us an hour. Only because it was a very tight fit. It fit up in between the frame rails, and we had a jack up under there trying to jack it up. It was lifting up the whole back end of the van, so Phil, you ended up beating it in with a hammer. We had to drill out the holes because they didn't have holes in the back of the frame rails. So anyways, we now have a hitch, and we just have to put the wiring harness in, which I'm sure is also going to be a good time.
Yeah, it'll probably be a process. I mean, everything is.
It will definitely be a process. I would just expect that now.
But yeah, we're chipping away at it, getting it all set up so we'll be able to pull the trailer and probably pull the camper for a little bit at least while we have it for now.
Yeah. I want to be able to take the camper to regionals.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna work on that, get that all set up for the towing and everything, and then we should hopefully be able to use it for regionals.
Yeah.
And then going forward, obviously.
Yeah, until someone buys it or we find something else to do with it.
Yeah.
Because we never know what we're doing. But one of the other cool things about the weekend is we know the owner of Redbud, and we got to kind of sit down and talk with him for a little bit. He had some time, came and sat under our Easy Up and chatted with us, which was nice. I've talked with him a little bit. You were just kind of meeting him for the first time, but super nice guy. And you guys kind of got to chatting about like old layouts and everything, and of his track of Redbud, and chatting about that stuff. And he looked over at us. He's like, "How old are you guys?" And we told him, Phil's 35 and I'm 30, and he just kind of giggled, and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You've been around a long time." And you even said, like, when did you first start going up there?
I feel like it was like 2000.
Okay, and you were born in 88, so you would have already been like 12.
Yeah, I was on 80s.
So that is one thing that I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit more on this episode, was just kind of your start in the sport. So, I mean, going back before you were 12 and racing at Redbud, your first ride was on a three-wheeler.
It was on a Honda three-wheeler that my grandma bought at a garage sale.
Yeah, how old were you?
I was 3.5 maybe. But yeah, she originally bought that for me when I was like 1.5. So I was destined to ride something.
Yeah.
And I mean, my dad and uncle always rode dirt bikes and other four-wheelers and whatever they could get their hands on.
Your dad raced four-wheelers?
Yeah, and dirt bikes.
Yeah.
So he raced both. I think my uncle raced just a little bit, mainly just rode. I think Grandma even rode a little bit.
I'm not surprised.
So I think Dad used her as a berm a couple times, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard that story once or twice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she got me the three-wheeler, and I just ripped that thing around in the yard for a little while when I first started learning how to ride it, as my parents taught me how to ride it. And then when I was like 3.5, I was understanding how to use the throttle and everything. I didn't know how to shift the gears on it, but a lot of times my dad would put it in second or third gear and let me rip around.
That's safe.
Yeah, and rip around the yard. But he had a little screw through the throttle housing for so it was like a governor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his own made up governor. So it worked, and then he decided that it was time to go racing, so he took me over to Malvern, which unfortunately isn't there, but that was my first race, was at Malvern.
And how old were you for your first race?
Like I said, 3.5.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah, real little.
Yeah.
Like I said, he would just put it in gear, and then he was just like, "All right, you're good." He's like, "When the gate drops, go."
Great.
Yeah, I got smoked.
That's all right.
Both motos. I think I might have got lapped by everyone, but I don't know. That was a long time ago. So, but after that, I do remember, for everyone that is listening to this that knows Malvern, about where the sandbox is, just in front of that, along the fence I still remember standing about right up there, and my dad asking me if I wanted to keep doing this, and I said yeah, and he said all right. He said dirt bikes or four wheelers. And I said I want a dirt bike, and then it
Good
went from
choice.
there.
Good choice.
Yeah, we got a dirt bike. I think it was like the next summer when I was like 4, or just about to turn 4. We got a dirt bike, and then I rode that around a little bit, got used to riding the dirt bike, and then we started racing.
So you raced the Ohio scene for a little bit, right?
Yeah, we did. We did Ohio for the most part, on 50s. My parents did know about like the Loretta stuff. We did do an area qualifier at Pleasure Valley, and actually while we were there was the first time. I mean, let's take it back. I did do a few years of 50s locally, just locally, like a few different tracks, and then like later on in 50s we did an area qualifier at Pleasure Valley, and it was actually the year that Cobras came out. That was the first time we seen a Cobra, and they were way faster than our KTM's.
You just really dated yourself. You predate Cobras.
I know.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Call myself old over here without
Yeah.
saying it. No.
That's fine.
But so yeah, we did an area qualifier, and then we did a regional actually at Budds Creek, and I definitely did not make it. I didn't even get to race my motos because the KTM that I was on, that was like almost like a, I don't want to call it like a prototype, but it was like an SX3. It was like a new model they just like brought out in the middle of the year or something, and my dad got me one because it was like supposed to be a little bit bigger chassis and stuff, and I was growing, and they were supposed to put like a more like hopped up motor in it, so it was a little bit faster and everything, and they just put the same motor in it, and it was really slow because of the bigger chassis,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't go up the hills at Budds Creek, so we didn't even get the race. And then my dad said screw that, and we got on 60s.
Time to move up.
Yep.
Yeah. So when, I guess, did you start, aside from like, doing Loretta stuff, I know a big part of your younger years were actually racing Michigan. That's actually where you got pointed out in the AMA and they bumped you to the A class. So when did you start really traveling?
So we started actually traveling, it would have been a few years after that. Like I did like 60s for like a season, really like locally, and then I was growing super fast. So I think it was like my second year on 60s, I had an 80 like mid-year, and then by the end of the year I think I was just on the 80. And then I think it would have been like my second or third year on 80s. We started traveling a lot. Southern Ohio, and then we started doing a bunch of PA stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we started traveling over to PA, and we'd do like Steel City and High Point for the Nationals. We would go watch the Pro Nationals, and they always did an amateur day.
Yeah.
So we would race those.
Yeah, kind of make it just a fun weekend
Yep.
trip. And then I know at some point in time you started like, you were chasing it, your dad was about it. You had like multiple bikes at one point in time and like dealerships and stuff helping you out too.
Yeah, we really made an effort at it for a while. We started racing all over. We did Michigan. We were in PA for a little while, and then we moved over and started racing the Michigan stuff a lot just because of the sand. It gets really rough up there, and there was really good competition to race usually every weekend. So we went up there, and yeah, we started getting a little bit of help from like dealerships and not quite like help with like full on like bikes, but yeah, we started getting like discounts on stuff, and then I had a couple good engine builder that helped me out pretty well, and suspension, and even the shop that was my engine builder, he got me hooked up with like gear and stuff. So yeah, I had some really good connections for a while when we were doing like amateur nationals on like 125s, and yeah, we had for a little while there when we were on 125s, and my dad was getting killer deals on them, and they were cheap back then. We had 4 of them. I felt like I was a spoiled kid, being an only kid with no siblings, but it was a good time. I had a lot of fun with it. We had a few race bikes and a couple practice bikes, and yeah, we had a good time. We put a lot of effort into it and raced a lot and did the Loretta stuff a few times. I made it on 80s and 125s. Actually 250Fs, but it was schoolboy. And it was like right after they let 250Fs in schoolboy. And then I made it in A class as well, and 4-stroke, because they still had a 4-stroke
I
class.
do remember that. I remember when it was like the 4-stroke class.
Yeah, that would have been 2005. That was my last year down there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I know too, like obviously we all love our parents, love everything that they've done for us in the sport and everything, but we've talked extensively about it because it's even carried over, like some of the mindset things has carried over into your adult life, but your dad was pretty hard on you growing up racing.
Yeah, he was. It was kind of it was an all in, and it was win or nothing, pretty much. Like
win or bust.
Yeah, win or bust, exactly. There was no getting, like second place or whatever. I mean, he was like cool with it, like especially if there was a bunch of fast dudes and like I rode well, like. But for the most part, like, even though like if I didn't win, if I got like a say a top 5 at like a decent sized race or something, like he would be like, let's say, pumped, but at the same time I was usually getting like some type of criticism when I came off the track. So it was it was like a double-edged sword. It was like, yeah, I did good, but this is all the shit I also was doing wrong.
And I think there's a lot of kids growing up in the sport that go through that, whether it, like, I don't ever think that the parent means to do that, but sometimes they have a little bit more invested in their kid than they probably should, and they're looking at it like an investment versus like, I mean, moto, when you're raising a kid in moto, you got to realize that this is just fun money that you're spending. Like, there is no promise of return, and you should never expect that. So I guess, we've talked about it a lot, and I've seen it again, kind of something that we've worked to get you away from being so hard on yourself when it comes to racing. But I wanted to attack it from both angles. So my first question to you would be, if there's like, a younger racer dealing with it now, like what advice would you give them on how to, stay positive and have a good mindset about racing with parents like that?
That's a tough one, honestly.
I didn't prepare you with this question either.
So not at all. That's very tough. Parents that are, pushing, got a lot of pressure on you. It's not always easy to deal with because they are spending a lot of money. So that's where a lot of the pressure of wanting their kids to perform and all that comes from. The one thing I would say for those kids is to do the best that they can to block out, a little bit of that pressure and try to remember to always, once you hit the track, it's just you out there and to have fun. Like no one else is on the bike, no one's in your ear, you got your helmet on, once you hit that track, it's just you. So have fun and enjoy yourself, and, speed and stuff like that will come. Like the more you like force it, like, because that's typically what the pressure comes from, parents wanting you to go fast. And I mean, that's what a lot of us are trying to do in this sport, is go fast. And I will say that the older I've got, I have learned that I can go fast easier by having fun on the bike and keeping less pressure off myself.
So yeah, and that's
less forcing it.
Right. That's one thing. Like I said, I there's things that we work through that I know are from like you growing up racing that I have to remind you. Like for one, now that we're adults, if we're not having fun, this shit's expensive. Like I ain't doing it anymore. So I'm constantly reminding you to put a smile on your face and have fun. But Another thing too that I think is very important is instead of being so worried about where other racers are on the track, because like your maybe your parents or your sponsors even are expecting you to win, instead of worrying about everyone else, the only person that you can control is yourself. So worry about you, race the track. Yes, I know there's other people out there that you want to beat, but if you're racing the track and just focused on racing that track to the best of your ability, don't worry about what's behind you, what's coming, what's going, and just go forward. I feel like that is very helpful too.
Yeah, it is. If you can just focus on the track and put in your best best laps, best lines, whatever it may be, and yeah, kind of separate, everyone else and everything else.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna get the best out of yourself.
Absolutely, I would agree. And I've seen you go somewhere and have expectations on yourself and ride like you're forcing it, and you look way too aggressive, like it doesn't look smooth, so then you're not riding super well. And then I've watched you go somewhere where you don't really necessarily care how you do, and you freaking shred. So it's like that, the mindset of it is so big in this sport.
It is. It is huge. Because if you got yourself all psyched out that, you got to do a certain thing or finish a certain way or whatever, more than likely you're probably going to sabotage yourself and you're not going to end up getting that result. I mean, you definitely can go the other way. You can will yourself into, making stuff happen. But, yeah, for the most part, if you have high expectations of one thing or another, you're probably going to have a hard time succeeding at
meeting those expectations.
Yeah, meeting that expectation. I've always found that if I go into it with no expectation and just I'm gonna give it my best shot and put it all out there and try to ride like I know how to ride, and I feel happy when I come off the track regardless of where I finish because I rode to my best form or ability or anything like that, then, I'm happy.
Yeah, as it should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely just kind of, navigating pressures from the outside can be difficult too. Now, on the flip side of that, what advice would you give to a parent if they are like that? Like if you could have went back in time and told your dad something, or like knowing the relationship that you guys have now and everything, which is much improved over the years. It's taken time. But what advice would you give to like a parent? Like if you see a 50 dad screaming at his kid, what in a nice way, what would you say?
Well, first off, I love my dad, but yeah, he still probably wouldn't listen to me if I said something to him now. So
no, I agree.
But as far as I mean, there's some 50 dads that I have wanted to say something to, and it's hard because it's like it would be very hard to actually approach someone, but especially at like a 50 dad, like that young, like. Man, like, I know you want your kid to be the fastest dude out there, but, like, I'll tell you what. Or girl. Excuse me. Sorry. Yes, or girl, because chicks can shred, too. Obviously. I married one. But your little dude, like, he's just trying to have fun. Like, that's why you guys got into it, right? Like, you got him a dirt bike to have some fun, rip around. You probably started in the yard. He loved it. So you were like, oh, let's go racing. Now you're racing. Now you want him to be the James Stewart out there. Well, guess what? Like, some little kids are going to be that fast and some aren't. But have fun with it. Keep it fun. Because if you start being serious, especially start being serious that young, he's going to be so burnt before he even probably touches big bikes.
That, and I feel like it also really affects relationships, like, and I'm talking long term, not just while you're at the racetrack, whatever. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, like I mentioned, I see different things in you that I can tell, like, your relationship growing up with your dad and how he treated like your racing and stuff has affected you into adulthood. And I mean, we all have that kind of crap, like, oh, well, like my parents did this and it effed me up forever. Like, yeah, but I'm talking like if you can avoid that, like you've rebuilt your relationship with your dad over the years because it was very strained for a while because of racing.
Yeah, it was super rocky. I didn't talk to him a whole lot for a while, especially when we got together and we like lived in Florida and everything. I mean, I would see him and talk to him, but it was like it wasn't a ton, because we did have a rocky relationship when I was younger because he did put so much pressure on me for racing because he wanted me to be the fastest dude out there, and I didn't really. I enjoyed riding, but I would say like a lot of times when I was on the bike, I wasn't like necessarily having fun. I was just trying to like.
You were working.
Yeah.
As a kid, you were working.
Yeah, it was my job.
Yeah.
So I was trying to force the speed and everything. But as far as getting back to, like a younger kid, just have fun with it. Like for me, like I wasn't the fastest kid when I was younger, and I was a terrible jumper. I was the biggest sissy ever when I was on like 50s and 60s. My parents would like beg me with like all kinds of stuff, like money and different stupid stuff to like take me out to dinner in a limo or something funny, like, and jump this like double right here, and nope. And I mean, I progressed over time, obviously, but I really didn't hit my stride. Like I was decent. Like I did make it to Loretta's on 80, so like I was going decent, but I really didn't hit my stride until I got on big bikes. That's when I really felt good and felt like I learned to pick up speed and ride well.
Yeah. So I think obviously giving your kid time to mature and grow up. Some kids do shred right from the get-go, and then they get to big bikes and they like lose it all.
Yeah, they fizzle out.
Yeah, and then there's kids that do terrible on minis and get into big bikes and find their stride. So I think from, a parent, and we're not parents. Like I'm not trying to say that I know how to parent. I'm just saying from my own personal experience and your experience of being parented in this sport.
Yeah, just for like the riding side of it.
Yeah.
Like, just a little advice, little tips. Like, if your kid isn't the fastest now, like maybe when he gets on big bikes, he might start setting the world on fire. You never know. Like, shoot, like I think it's Levi Kitchen. I think he really didn't come on in the amateur scene until he was like in his he was like 19 or 20, and he won pro sport at Loretta's, and then he got a ride and then started going into the nationals. So sometimes it takes a little longer than being 5 years old and being the fastest kid out there.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing too, like obviously the relationship side of it, you want to make sure that you have a good relationship with your kid. But me looking at it, like I've been in the finance industry in my career since I graduated high school. And like some of the money or some of the things that I see people do to be able to dump money into the sport, like second mortgages on their home and all of these crazy things, like that's fine if you have the money to do it, but it's not an investment that you should ever expect a return from. It's money that you should spend knowing that this is building memories, building character in your child. Like you can't, I don't care how much help, your kid gets. Like at the end of the day, if the kid does grow up to be like a big name in the sport, like that's their career. So the money that you spent doing it, like, yeah, you hope like maybe they'll take care of you. That'd be cool as a kid, but it's still not yours. Like this is money that you should be spending knowing that, it's not going to come back around. Like, for example, my dad had 2 girls racing. He dumped money into us. And girls, and not to be mean, but there's like not really a future for women in this sport. There's no like money to be made to retire off of. Not right now. I'm hoping that changes, but there
was for a very short period of time.
Very short
it was like
period.
A couple of years.
But my sister and I were never any type of skill level to expect that, and my dad dumped money into it anyways because that's what he did with his girls on the weekend.
Yeah, you guys had fun with it.
Absolutely. And so you and I were very opposites the way we were raised, which I think is 100% why we balance each other out so well, because I'm over here always reminding you to have fun, loosen up, throw fat whips. Like usually that's what I tell you on the starting gate. Like go put a smile on your face, throw fat whips. And you're like
fat whips.
Yeah, that's fine. And you're like over here like, yeah, you got to be a little bit more aggressive. You got to charge a little harder, because honest to God, sometimes if you didn't remind me of those things, I just be on like a Sunday cruise, like, cool, I'm loving life, like, and like we're at the races.
I get you fired up, like, let's go, like, come on.
And sometimes you do, like, you piss me off to the point that I'm like, well, F this, like, I'm just going out there and ride super hard, and then I ride really great, and I'm like, well, where was that when I was, So we balance each other out very well, but I definitely had more of the side of my dad just loved doing it with us, dumped money into it. Now, I mean, that's not to say that he, didn't probably spend money that should have gone to bills on dirt bikes, but we kind of all do that. So it priorities. You figure things out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but anyways, I know too, like growing up in your era, because you already pointed out the fact that you're old.
My era, thanks.
You actually rode with some pretty big names, like Phil Nicoletti was one of them. You raced with some of those guys.
Yeah, I raced Nicoletti. I raced with Davey Millsaps, the Lessie brothers, way back when we were on like 80s at like Mini O's and all that. I raced against Villapoto. I have pictures from Loretta's going through a corner on 80s that first year I made it with Josh Grant. He was in my class. I've raced a lot of the guys that are big names in the sport. It was awesome. I was, especially when I was younger and the first few years that we did like amateur nationals, I think the first thing we ever really did was Mini O's down in Florida. And man, I was super intimidated by those guys because like I was seeing them on like movies and in magazines and stuff, and they're like my age, but they're like these kids that like shred and have they have like a ride and everything else, and here's just old Phil coming out of Ohio, and I'm like, these guys already look like superstars.
Yeah.
I was like almost like starstruck, and my dad always made fun of me because the first year down there, we get on the line for Supercross. And he said, I was like looking up and down the line because I had like Millsaps and I think like a Lessie on there for a heat race and everything. And I was so like shocked that I was racing these guys that when the gate dropped, I didn't take off with everyone. I was like sleeping on the gate.
Deer in the headlights a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I got away from that. I got used to it being around those guys, and I actually did hang out a little bit with some of them when we were real young, but it was cool. It was neat growing up in the area and then watching all those guys do what they did.
Yeah, to continue on in the sport.
Yeah, I actually speaking of being around that, those guys actually got to watch Stewart his very last year on 125s race A class in schoolboy at a qualifier at Pleasure Valley.
Wow.
That was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So even talking about, kind of growing up racing with those guys, seeing those guys and everything, there was as you got older, and I think you were around, I think you told me 19, but you actually got into like the arena cross stuff too, the pro arena cross stuff.
Yeah, let's see, we did, I think about 3, I don't even want to call them seasons. The one year we did quite a few of the rounds, so I did like most of a season. But the first year I did, I think 1 or 2 on the 450, just kind of dabbled with it. My dad it was after they had kind of dropped the rules to where you had to get points for your pro license. And I made the mistake of not getting it like a couple years before that, before they made the rules for the points, where I could have just bought it and rode nationals and stuff. And I still kick myself because I never ended up with my pro license.
So you were saying that before you could basically just have bought your pro license and then there was a rule change.
Yeah, so if you were an A rider, an amateur A rider, and you did your paperwork and everything, filed for it, you could buy your pro license and go ride nationals.
And then they changed it to where you actually had to collect points to get it.
Yeah, because they were getting, for a little while there, they were getting a lot of guys that let's just say, weren't overly qualified to be out there with like the factory riders and stuff.
Sure.
So it was getting almost a little bit hazardous because they were getting guys that had only done probably like a couple A races, like signed up as an A rider and then got their pro license. And yeah, so they tried to weed that out by doing the points. So we did arena cross. Like I said, I did a couple on the 450 one year, and in the next year, I think it was like end of 07 into the beginning of 08, we did the arena cross series, and I think we did like 6 or 7 rounds. They had just switched over. We were all 250Fs, but I did pretty good. I got because they had it split into like West and East Coast points for the lights class, and because they had the lights and heavy class, even though we were all 250Fs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because it used to have 250 and 450s, but they switched it. Yeah, it was weird. But I ended up 10th overall in the East points that year.
Nice.
So I did pretty good. The one round I was running third or fourth, and I think I was running fourth, but I was catching third. And then we had a handful of guys go down, and they red flagged us, and we did a single file start on the starting like line, like straight away. And then I tightened up a little bit. I went backwards. Not too bad though. I still ended up like with like a 7th that night in the main event. So it was pretty cool. I had a couple good rounds in there, and I came up just shy. You had to have 75 points, and I had 70. And I had even called the AMA, and the lady I talked to on the phone told me, nope, you had to get all your points. So I was duped again. But,
SOL.
Yeah. And if I would have looked a little harder, I could have probably petitioned it, like wrote in a letter and everything, but I didn't realize that at the time, so I never did. And yeah, but yeah, we did some arena cross, and I tried to do it actually the next season, and they had switched it to where we actually had to do timed qualifying instead of heat races.
Yeah.
And for like the daytime, and because we do like practice, and then we used to do daytime heat races the year before, and that's great for me. Like once the gate drops, like I'm ready to go. But we switched over to time qualifiers the next year, and it was literally like they'd let you do a roll lap and then put you on the like start straight, and then like wave the green flag, and then you took off, and then as soon as you hit the finish line, you were already on your first time lap. And it was super hard because like I was decent at it, but I didn't always get to ride like those style tracks, so it would take me a little bit to get like the rhythms down and everything. So I struggled with the time qualifying thing.
Well, and we've talked about it a lot even now when we go practice, like at the practice track. You'll be like, man, like I feel pretty good today. Like I feel fast. I feel like I'm flowing around. But there's another level that you somehow find when we go racing, and that gate drops, because you take smooth and flowy and crank up the gas, and like it's now, you're still a good smooth rider, but it's like way more aggressive. So yeah. You find like that's just another like level when the gate drops. So I totally can understand why time qualifying doesn't work for you.
Yeah, it frustrates me almost sometimes because it's like I don't know how I do find that. But yeah, as soon as the gate drops, I'm like a whole nother person.
Yeah, I mean, probably at least a little bit of adrenaline, but.
Oh yeah, definitely adrenaline, and I get like super focused in. I think sometimes with like practice days, I'm just like cruising around and just having fun, but like not like super focused into trying to go like as fast as I can, whereas like that's all that I'm focused on. When that gate drops, it's like go.
Yeah, I gotta go. So I mean, after Arena Cross, we got together in 2012, and you were pretty much already, I mean, you were done with all of that. Now when we met, I was working at State 8, and you came in to buy, you were trading in a 252 stroke.
Yeah, I had an RM 252 stroke.
And you came in and you bought an RMZ 450.
Yeah, correct.
What were you doing with that bike? I can't remember, like...
I wasn't really doing anything. I was just, I had been on the two-stroke for, like, I think like 3 years at that point, 2 or 3 years. I had rode it, and I was just kind of over it. Was looking to, I was working like a full-time job, so I was looking to get a fresh bike. And I had a couple people help me out so I could get, take out the credit to get a new one. But yeah, I ended up getting that 450 just to have fun and race and try to enjoy it, because I was getting a little bit burnt on it because we were still dabbling a little bit with like some pro-ams and stuff. I had done a couple on my the 252 stroke. I had actually done one at the old Area 330 track.
Yeah.
And I busted myself up pretty bad that day.
I was there that day.
Yeah.
I didn't like know you
guys
very well.
You guys watched me cartwheel down the hill.
Yeah, we were like, "Oh God, did you see that guy?" It was you.
Yeah, it was me. I got up and raced that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Obviously, like knew of you, but not like we weren't like.
No.
I never talked to you or anything.
That's because I didn't race too much around Ohio.
You were also 6 years older than me.
Yeah, I mean, there is that.
You were old.
Yeah.
You're still old. I'm just kidding.
Pretty
but
much.
anyways, so I just remember like we got together riding as much as we could. I mean, I was still in high school, and living at my dad's and everything. And then, we moved in together, and I didn't have a bike for a hot minute, and then we got me one. And there was like a minute there, I remember that you were kind of like, I'm hanging up the boots. Like, I'm done with this. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You made it Facebook official.
Yeah, I did. I've actually, like, seen it in my memories.
Really?
Before. Yeah, it's hilarious.
That's funny.
Yeah, I did say I was hanging up the boots. I was just kind of over it. Like, I didn't have fun with it. Like, every time I was on the bike, I felt like I was just, like, forcing it. And I didn't ride, like, a ton, so I didn't always have, like, good riding shape when we go, like, racing and everything. And I wasn't training for it at that point at all or anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was pretty over it. And, I mean, even when we got you that bike and stuff, shoot, it was lucky if we even rode once a month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the time, and I feel like it's hard when you like move out on your own like we did, and to try to keep racing. Like, I mean, obviously it's when your parents are supporting you, you go a lot, and then you get out on your own. I think that's when a lot of people either take a hiatus or quit because of how expensive it is. And we bought an old bike for me that had been sitting, so it didn't run great. For me, it always like would bog right when we gave it the gas. So like when I gave it the gas, you just never let off the gas, so you didn't have an issue riding it.
Yeah,
but
it ran really well at the top end, but you really had to stay like on the throttle, otherwise she did bog.
Yeah, and I was coming back from a broken femur, so give me a break on the fact that I didn't want to ride it like that.
No, I mean, I get it. The few times I rode it, I figured out that's how it would run well.
You're like, it's fine. But yeah, so I mean, we definitely had our struggles in our time where we didn't get to ride nearly as much as obviously we do now. But yeah, even a time where like I didn't know what our future with dirt bikes was going to be. And then I think from there, like,
I barely even hung out with anyone that rode dirt bikes at that time.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, you.
Just me.
You're kind of what helped keep me into it.
Yeah, and I think another big switch for us was we got just this wild hair up our butts to want to move to Florida. And 2 years after we started dating, we just moved to Florida together and said we'll figure it out. And when we got down there, it was beautiful. Oh my gosh, like we moved down there, it was Memorial Day weekend. I just talked to you about this.
Oh my gosh, it was
2014 Memorial Day weekend. We moved because I remember scheduling the move-in date at this apartment complex for Monday, and I was like, cool, we'll get there, we'll get the keys. And then I was like, oh no, it's Memorial Day weekend. the apartment complex office isn't open. So I had to call the girl and she had to come in on her day off to give us the keys.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah.
I'm glad she did.
I know. 8 years ago this weekend, we moved to Florida, but yeah, we
10.
No, we moved in 2014. Oh, it is 10. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's 2024.
10 years ago.
10
years ago. We moved to Florida just on a whim because we wanted to. But then after we got down there, like we figured out somehow we had this apartment. We did not have a garage. We had an apartment. We took our bikes down there that we had and somehow figured out how to take those bikes and trade them in on 2 new bikes. You got a YZ252 stroke.
I don't know how we got financed for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. And then I got it was my 2013 KX250, brand new, super excited about it. And then we also had to go buy a pressure washer because we didn't have any way to wash the bikes. We were using car washers for a while.
We did the car wash thing for a little while, and we were pretty like proficient at it.
Yeah, we were, because we worked together.
Yeah.
But I think that really kind of relit your fire for moto again. But we weren't racing down there. We just rode a bunch.
Yeah, I think that helped. Because like up here, like it was pretty much we just raced. Like, I mean, I had a track at my dad's, so I would ride, but it was mainly racing. That's what everyone did. There wasn't a whole lot of like growing up. There was a whole lot of places that did like open practice days. It was mainly just race days. So yeah, when we went to Florida, it was like a way more chill vibe down there. A lot more just like open riding practice days. And I also really enjoyed not knowing anyone down there. Like
there's no pressure.
Scene. Yeah, no pressure. Like growing up and being in the area that I was there, knowing a lot of people, there was times that I'd be at tracks when I was younger and say I wasn't riding overly great that day, and it always seemed like there'd be like a few people would be like, oh, what's going on? You don't look that great. They always point stuff out like that. So it was like felt like there was always eyes on me, and people expecting me to go a certain speed or whatever it may be, or at least it felt that way. So yeah, when we moved away, it was super nice for me. It was almost like a reset, and then I started to find a lot of enjoyment in riding.
Yeah.
We were just riding, so it didn't matter, like, if I went out and just shredded a whole moto, or if I went out and cruised around and did wheelies and threw one-handers and did stupid stuff around the track the whole time.
And we met guys down there that did both. There were some dudes down there, like, riding so they could, train and try to chase their pro license. Like, we met dudes like that down there. And then we met dudes that were just, like, total Florida vibe, chill, like you said, doing wheelies. So it was easy to just kind of, like, mesh into that crowd and be super chill about it. So chill that one time you forgot my jersey and I had to ride in a t-shirt and I felt like a weirdo.
I didn't do that on purpose.
I know, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, the vibe was very chill down there. I always laughed when we first started living down there and we go to practice days, because I'm so used to, like, I get to the track and I'm all like antsy to get my gear on and get out there and start riding, and it's like I'd always end up being like one of the first people out on the track and like cruising around for a while and like hardly anyone out there. And it's like I started like paying attention when we get to the tracks, and it's like everyone's just hanging out, bullshitting,
music
playing. They're like slowly putting some gear on, still bullshitting. It's probably been like an hour since they got there, and then they're like finally getting out on the track. I'm like, oh, everyone's just fucking laid back. Like, yeah, we'll get out there when we get out there.
Yeah, they're not in a rush.
No, which has helped me a ton, because like I used to get so antsy at the races, like, oh my god, I gotta get my gear on and get out on the track. No, now I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll get out there. I'll make it.
Yeah, I'll make it even if I roll up when they're letting us out. It's fine. Yeah, Florida moto vibes definitely hit different.
Yeah, it was cool though. It was a nice, like I said, it was like a reset for me with riding, and brought a lot of fun back into it. And we ended up riding a lot down there. I mean, we almost rode every weekend. So, yeah, it's a big part of why we ride so much now.
Yeah. And I think, like, I wanted to talk to you about this because I feel like a lot of riders, a lot of racers go through what you did, especially guys that ride. that, want to chase it, want to do it. The parents are a little bit tough on them. There's a lot of pressure on them. They get to the point where they're like, man, this isn't even fun anymore. So, I wanted to talk about all of it. I'm not saying that you all have to move to Florida to find your love for riding again, although it wasn't a bad thing. Like, by all means, do your thing. We loved it.
Yeah, if you think you got to move away to make that, happen, do it.
Right.
Even if it's for like a year or two.
Right. We did 2.5 years in Florida. I made that sound like we went to jail for 2.5 years. We did 2.5 in Florida.
We did 2.5.
Yeah. Anyways.
Hard up in the Sunshine State.
Oh my God. Yeah. But anyways, what I was getting at was that, like, I think everyone goes through that period where it's like, man, like, this is tough. Dirt bikes are a lot of work. They're expensive. Like, you're doing it on your own, especially right when you, like, move out, you're kind of working, you barely have any money to, like, especially right now, everything's so expensive. But, like, there's always going to be that period where, yeah, shit's hard and it's like, is it worth it? But at the end of the day, like, I don't know how many times you've actually said you were going to hang up your boots, but here we are still riding, enjoying the sport because we always come back to it. Like, I'm 30 now, you're 35 now, like, grinding. And it's definitely a grind sometimes and we get tired and we'll take, weekends off and whatever. But for the most part, like I mentioned earlier, I tell you all the time, if we are not having fun, we're not going to keep doing it because this is expensive and it's a lot of work. So the minute that the fun goes out the window, I'm out.
Yeah. You definitely got to keep it fun.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like a job.
Yeah. But it's interesting to, like, see full circle, like, super into it, get burnt out on it, ride again. It's almost like you said, like, you just reset, like, you get to ride again and just learn how to enjoy a dirt bike again and having fun. And it really does make all the difference.
It does a ton. Sometimes I still get stuck going on pounding laps, but usually I try to do it with a smile on my face.
And throwing fat whips.
Yeah. Or, like, I'll try to slow down, like, if I'm been shredding like a moto or something, I'll try to slow down in the middle of it and, like, hop around through some bumps or wheelie some bumps or over a single or something. Just play around on the bike and, like, just remember to have that little bit of fun in there and
sometimes
keep it light.
Yeah, sometimes I think you do that with me, like, especially if we're out on the track together and you find me, I can tell, like, you slow up and, like, play ride around me for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but what you don't realize is when you do that, it makes me ride faster because, for one, I'm trying to keep up with your play riding, which is hard to do sometimes. But two, I'm like, man, he's watching me. I got to ride really well. So I'm, like, pushing my limit to try to, like, I guess in a sense, like, show you what I can do. And I can only do that for, like, so long. And then you're like turning around waiting for me. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah. I do try to, like, when I come up to you, I try to, like, slow up and play around a little bit. So I'm not just burning laps all the time. And yeah, I know that you like when I do that too. It makes it fun.
Yeah, it does.
Push you a little bit.
It does.
Sometimes I try to, like, come in close on a corner on you or something. Put a little pressure there. So
honestly, it doesn't rattle me because a lot of the tracks here in Ohio, they're so busy all the time that, like, I'm used to it.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. So do you really have, like, I mean, I know we're, like, going to regionals in a couple weeks, but do you have any major, like, goals for this year? Or are you just, like, pretty adamant on just having fun with it? Like,
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of goals for this year. Yeah, just having fun and, I don't know, trying to do the best I can. I would like to make Loretta's this year. I mean, that's why we're trying it. I do want to try to ride better at regionals this year. Like, I want to go there and ride well, definitely. I want to be a little less focused. I think last year I was too focused on, like, oh, I got to be at the front. And I think I screwed myself. This year I want to try to ride a little more consistent if I can. If I can keep my head on my butt.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's the plan. I would say, yeah, that's a goal is Loretta's this year. And then, I don't know. Other than that, yeah, just riding, having fun, and enjoying myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. The fun part, obviously, is you have to be especially at our age, you know, like we have to be out there having fun. Otherwise, like, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
I will say too, like I always tell you this, but I think it's funny with us building this business, you know, Shred. I feel like the business, and like I give myself plenty of credit. I know it's cool that chicks ride, great, whatever, but I cannot ride to your ability. So I am constantly taking videos of you riding for content because you are much more interesting to watch ride than myself. So I feel like I just said this the other day. I feel like sometimes like I'm the brains behind the operation, but you're like the star rider because I need someone who can ride really well to be like, okay, well, like these people know what they're doing. Like, yeah, we do. Like my riding shows it too, but my riding's still not as like impressive as yours. So you end up just kind of being like, you know, all of our content. And I need you to ride well so that I can get good content to run a business. So that's also very important.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand.
It does.
I mean, your riding is good, like especially your form and everything.
Don't say good for a girl or I will smack you.
It's good for a girl. No, I'm just kidding. No, you are a very good rider overall. Especially now, like I've worked with you a lot, and your form is very good now. It was very apparent, actually. I think I said something to you about that at Redbud over the weekend.
Yeah, you
did. Watching you compared to even, you know, some of the girls that were leading the class, like, man, like, it just, they're on the gas, they're going fast, but they're just a little, like, on the sloppy side, and their arms down, doesn't look like they're barely gripping the bike, and it's funny, like, because it's like I can pick you out of them, like, so quickly, because it's like your elbows are up, you're nice and squared up, you know, you can tell you're gripping with your legs, your feet are in the right position, like, your form just looks, you know, like, awesome, though. You're just not pushing it quite as hard as they are, because they're, you know, young and not afraid to twist the throttle.
And hit the ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few of those girls, I thought they were a couple times.
I know, I had to ride behind them. No, but anyways, that's the difference in 25 years on a dirt bike versus some of those girls only have 3, 4, 5 years on a bike. So
all they know is twist the gas.
Yeah. So I do try to make sure, like, you know, anything that you've taught me, I do. Even if I don't have the speed that I wish I had, like, I want to do everything else right. That way, as speed comes, I'm doing it well. I think that, you know, form, fundamentals, foundation, all of that stuff needs to come first before you add speed, because otherwise speed will put you on the ground quickly.
Yes, it definitely will.
So, but anyways, like I said, you know, I wanted to kind of chat about, like, obviously the couple races we did recently, your upbringing in the sport, your experience, because you have a lot of good insight there. Like, you went through what a lot of racers do. I got, you know, lucky, and like I said, that we were very much just for fun. Could use some more aggression when I ride. I'm working on that. But yeah, so, you know, next up for us, a couple weeks will be regionals, Memorial Day this weekend, and I'm sure, oh, also, I forgot to tell you, we have a request, multiple requests, to do a vlog, so I have to find the time to try to film us while we're at regionals, so maybe that'll happen too.
Oh, that should be fun.
Yeah.
Because we get so much extra time.
So much time while we're on the gate together.
Yeah. And I already know how regionals are going to be. Our motos will be close together.
We need one of those drones that, like, you carry the little chip around and the drone just follows you around.
Yeah, no kidding.
That would be fun. Anyways.
It'd probably get taken out somehow.
It would. You'd jump on it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Perfect.
So maybe that. Otherwise, update-wise, I don't think we have a ton going on right now. Obviously, you know, we're working with, at this point in time, we're actually working with over 25 riders, which is a lot on our roster. But we're managing it well. And bringing on, you know, a couple new riders, brought on a couple pros. Just good things, good business building things, and everyone's in the busy season right now, but otherwise just grinding it out just like we are. Like, that's what we expect of our riders. Everyone's getting it done and everyone's enjoying the program, the process. So all good things.
Yeah, everything's going well.
So until next time, when we have more fun things to talk about, maybe a Redbud regional vlog. Maybe. That sounds like a whole nother undertaking, but yeah, till next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll try to get you another episode a lot sooner.
Yeah, sooner than like a month and a half. Jeez, it took us
Yeah.
so long.
All right. Peace out, guys.